Good morning, and welcome. I'm Jeff Nesin. I'm the provost at SVA, and people are always wondering what a provost does. And one of the things a provost does is hear proposals. You propose to the provost. And last year, at some point, David Levi-Strauss called me up by way of introduction to Christian. And to make sure I was on the right track, I also called Stephen Henry Madoff and David Ross, and both of them showed up in my office, as soon as it was possible to sit down with Christian. And it still seemed, a distant possibility, but it's so wonderful and vivid to see it absolutely realized so remarkably now. I've been thinking since that initial meeting about what little I know about this topic and how it has come to my attention increasingly over the years. I remember a moment in the late 70s when Diane Waldman made the show called Willem de Kooning in East Hampton. And because I was working at SVA then too, I knew her, and I told her how beautiful I thought the show was, how exciting it was, and then I said, some of those surfaces are so gloppy. I'm not sure what word I used, but how did that happen? And she looked at me, directly and darkly and said, "You don't want to know." And then there were some mutterings about mayonnaise and other non-standard ingredients. And I thought, now that's really interesting. And this nexus of problems has just grown and grown and grown, not just because of the idiosyncrasies of artists, but also because of the new tools that have developed for them. I'm thinking, for example, now I have a family member in the business. Our older daughter is a curator of contemporary art at the Art Institute of Chicago, and she's about to open, I think in a couple of weeks, a show of Francis Stark's video work from online chats, and she started this only, it would seem a few minutes ago, but it seems that she used a software, a very primitive, simple animation software that no longer exists. So we have problems from the chemical and the biological to the digital, and it would seem that Christian has remarkable job security going forward. Contemporary conservation is going to be contemporary for the foreseeable future. And then the thing that makes this iteration special for you and for me is the interpolation of value into this mix. And so I pondered that for a while on my daily walks across the island here. And before I was amongst artists all the time, I was amongst a bunch of poets. And in the very early 70s, Robert Creeley had introduced me to Robert Rauschenberg, very briefly, but they were old friends and comrades for long standing. And so I believe that this quotation is accurate. This is in the time when Rauschenberg did what he called the cardboard series, which was essentially corrugated boxes that were cut in different shapes, which I found fascinating and entirely consistent with everything else he had done that far. But he told Bob Creeley, Bob R. told Bob C. that a collector that he was close to expressed great exasperation. you know, this is just cardboard. How could I possibly invest in this? And Rauschenberg said that he replied, how much did you pay for your new car? How long do you expect that to last? And I've never, ever forgotten that. That was a long time ago now. So the interpolation of value and a realistic notion of what the arc of life is, or what the sustaining of the life of a work of art might be, is absolutely of the moment, as germane as it can possibly be. Now, the other night, Christian sent me an email, and it included this this paragraph. The reason why we first approached SVA was that we wanted to hold this event in an institution where art is taught and produced. This will be the first symposium about conservation issues in contemporary art from the perspective of a private practice studio. So we don't have big laboratories at SVA. We have lots and lots of studios at SVA. So here are people who are working on the problem from the origin end, and today you will consider it at stages later in its life, and I find that to be absolutely marvelous and appropriate. So I'm really thrilled to see this theater so full, and really pleased to be able to just kick off this long, restorative, and valuable day. So ultimately, your host and guide will be Christian Scheidman. But first, Johanna? Yeah, thank you. So welcome, everybody.